The Triton Lego Railway is now on Patreon. There are two tiers to choose from. The first tier is a smaller, more general support amount, and the second is the Locomotive Builder, which is for more hardcore Lego train fans. These tiers unlock things including having your name featured in each video. You will have access to updates in regards to the Triton Lego Railway, both anything personal that may affect the railway and the railway as a whole. You'll be able to have participation in polls for current and future projects. You will be able to decide what comes next. You will have early access and sneak peeks to anything related to work in progress for rolling stock, structures, locomotives, and anything else being built on the Triton Lego Railway. And finally, you will have access to Lego Digital Designer files of my locomotives. I have had many requests for instructions for various models by many people, and the best way for me to deliver this is through Lego Digital Designer. To do this in real life and brick build them as a live Lego build video is going to be quite complicated, and through the use of Lego Digital Designer you can see the bricks themselves, maybe make some modifications to make it your own kind of model, and it is something that I am very familiar with, so we are going with that. If you like what you see and want to help me expand my Lego Railway, then consider being a member on Patreon today. Anything you give through Patreon will all go towards the Triton Lego Railway. It's all towards building Lego trains and all towards building the best Lego Railway possible. Link to the Patreon page is in the description below. Hello and welcome to another Lego Train MOC Showcase video. This is for the BR Standard 9F class, the Evening Star. This is large and small all at the same time. So this is a 210 as in 10 drive wheels. Oh yes. But it's actually one of the more smaller models I have on my railway. It's very compact and it's very interestingly built. There are some things I've been able to do for the first time, some things were just fiddly and gave up with, some things are really just weird on its own, and some things are quite fascinating. So this is the Evening Star. This is a locomotive I built before in 6 studs wide, which is why this and the Streamlined Coronation video both say 7 stud wide upgrade. And this is one of the most interesting models for the sakes of how it's been upgraded. When it comes to looking at models like, well, I may as well use this as an example. I think Mallard is definitely one of them, and a few other 7 wide upgrades, the P2 as well. From 6 to 7, you can get so much more detail in. It's just incredible. This is my 8th locomotive to have trimline tape applied to the model, the Streamlined Coronation being the 7th. So when I finished building the Streamlined Coronation, I went ahead and got on with this straight away, which is why I'm recording these videos kind of so close to each other. But all in all, this is remarkable. Now, before we go to the front and go onwards, there's one thing I want to quickly do, and that's actually with the tender. I want to do this now because I think this is genuinely just brilliant. Now, fellow Lego train builder on YouTube and Flickr, British Bricks, has a Patreon page, and I am one of his members. And in doing so, I was, what would you say, like awarded, or I unlocked? Yeah, let's say I unlocked. So I unlocked something where I was able to have access to a Lego Digital Designer file for an engine he made. And the way that he built his wheels is just brilliant. It's so clever, it's so compact in comparison to how I built my coronation tender. Let me grab that, that's here actually. So there we go. So you see how this has been built, and now you see how I built mine. There is a big difference with how I built mine. It sticks out a lot. With this is how Sam kind of basically built his, but with slightly more detail. It looks amazing. So shout out to Sam at British Bricks. He is absolutely phenomenal. If you want to check out his work, he is online. Trust me, you want to see what he has done because he is one of the best Lego train builders I have ever seen. So there we go. That is the kind of advertising out of the way. Let's have a look at the rest of the model. So then, at the front we have these massive smoke deflectors. A little bit bigger than I thought they were, especially lengthwise, but for what the overall look has achieved, I think it's okay. These are 4x4 round bricks here, and I've been able to use a few with the Technic holes in them to kind of attach the smoke deflectors to. You can just see here, I don't know how easy it is for you to see, but there's a bit of black trimline tape going across the top of one of these bricks. That is one of the 4x4 round bricks that has Technic holes in them. But since there would have been a hole there, I thought, you know what, I need to cover that up, otherwise it would just look a bit weird. And yeah, got a bit of tape. I thought that's pretty clever. Using a 1x2 round tile piece here. This is something I showed off with the streamlined coronation video as well, with the buffers. That's what they look like, or at least that's what they look like from the bottom. These are one of the most amazing pieces I've ever used when it comes to Lego trains, especially recently. These are bricks you're going to want to get your hands on, because you will be amazed at how useful and how handy those bricks will be. We have lining going across the body, of course. We have some simple lining going across the boiler as well. For the tender and the cab, the lining kind of takes a little bit more detail, where there is orange with black lining in the middle. The black lining is separate to the orange in the sense where I use trimline tape, and the black and orange tapes are separate colors. You can't get a tape design where you have orange with black lines added to them. The boiler design is a much more better design, I suppose. Well, I'm going to set myself up for failure there. But it's a much better design both internally and externally. You can see all these cheese slopes being used. I'm surprised I had that many. Then again, I did make a few bricklink orders to make sure I had that many. But when it came to using the rest of them, it was a very good purchase. So this is a 3x3 design. If I kind of look it upwards, it's a bit more easier to see. This is something a lot of people have done when it comes to their models, especially at 6 wide. This is a really clever way of achieving a nice round boiler without going too wide. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on in the future and kind of learn yourself when it comes to making Lego trains. It's pretty good. The cylinder, if I try and hold it sideways like this, there we go, you can see that's on an angle. That is on purpose. Now, when you look at the 9F, you will notice that the cylinder is angled, and I first thought, how the hell am I going to do that? And now, if I don't drop anything, I should be able to show you. Let's see if I can do it just sideways for now. Hopefully nothing falls off. There we go. Yeah, let's take the pilot wheel off. Should make things easier. So, underneath here, it's a bit complicated. But what you're looking at right there is a 1x2 bracket hinge piece. I think it's called a hinge brick. And that's something that allows you to kind of move the angle of a brick that's being attached to it. So given the amount of limited space here, I can't move it too much. But you can see there is some movement. And that is thanks to the hinge brick underneath here. I am using a few different Technic bricks that I would normally use, but it's all coming in very handy. A 1x2 Technic brick with 2 holes on them, so it can all be connected nicely and comfortably. And yeah, all in all, it's actually quite simple. But as a way of trying to keep the cylinders facing in the way they are, I've had to use a piece that has string on it. So this is an actual piece of Lego. I think it's not the sort of thing you would get from like a Spider-Man set, but it is something that is out there. Maybe for like a smaller creator or Technic build. But it's a bit of string with a stud on each end. And I was able to attach it to the top of the cylinder piece. You can't really see it because it's all internal. But connected to here and about, well yeah, at the back about there. And it's just got as much strain on it as possible to keep the cylinder in the upwards position. There we go. I think that went quite well. I didn't break anything. Nothing fell over. I didn't drop the damn camera as well. Excellent. 10 out of 10 camera work. Never doing it again though. There's a massive gap between the running board and the drive wheels, which looks very interesting to say the least. I don't recall any other locomotives that share such a design, but when you look at the size of the boiler, how small it is, and how many drive wheels there are, you could definitely make this a little bit smaller and make it into like, what is this? This is a 210, maybe a 260, maybe, what's that called? Is that called a mogul? I think so. Train fans, help me out here. But you can get the idea of what I'm trying to say, because that gap is, again, a very interesting design idea. And there's definitely going to be some modifications out there. Surely somebody has tried it where they just shrink this down even further. They'll look quite interesting. The cab was hell to get through. First of all, the side bricks were placed in a different position where they were on kind of this side rather than being attached to this section here. Just real quick, I don't know if this detail up here is accurate. I've just got 2 1x1 round bricks here just to represent some details. Pictures online aren't really helpful Some of them are, some of them aren't. I don't know what actually goes up here, but, you know, for now, that's just what I've got. If it's any different, let me know. But back to this, the overall look is supposed to be slightly different. So we have this sort of angle piece going along here. Really, that should be back a stud, but if I do that, everything falls apart. So I've got to move that forward. This roof here should be flat to this round piece at the back. I don't know terminology. Don't yell at me, please. Please be nice. But yeah, this is 2 tiles taller than this section of the boiler. But I can't do that because I won't be able to fit a minifigure inside, which is a real shame. This sodding cab, I don't know if it's just the way I've built it or if it's just the design of the 9F in total. It's such a small cab, it's such a weird design, no wonder don't many people build this sort of thing. Looking inside, did I ever put a cab detail? Basic details, nothing like the coronation. 2 levers, 2 printed tiles, a small fire going on in there, that's fine. That's all this thing really deserves, I suppose. But nonetheless, the boiler was a very interesting build. When I got to this point of actually finishing the boiler, I just looked at it like this and I thought, you know what, I think this could actually be a keeper. I wasn't expecting to keep this locomotive. I was expecting to scrap it after a certain period of time. When it comes to adding the trimline tape, I added it after the entire thing was finished. So after burning the whole thing, the trimline tape is applied, then it is 100% done. So yeah, it nearly got scrapped, but you know what, looking at it now, despite the fact that I'm talking about things that didn't work, I'm glad I've built it, I'm glad I'm keeping it as well. Interesting addition to the railway. Nice to get on the freight side of things as well. Right, let's move that there and have another look at the tender. So the tender is, it was just as painful. This was, or used to be, much longer. This was a much more difficult thing to build, mainly because of that wheel design. So when it came to kind of figuring this out, I wanted to use these medium-sized drivers that you can get from Big Ben Bricks. This is because the middle wheel is a blind, so I can have a rigid base whilst this thing can go around points and corners. No need for any articulation and no need for anything stupid. It's all there, it all works, absolutely excellent. But this used to be a much longer tender, so when you look at it that way, the front, if you just assume that the back was still there, it'd probably come out to about, I don't know, here, something like that, about 4 or 5 studs longer because of the gaps I had between the wheels. It's just so weird. It was a bit taller as well, so the green wouldn't actually stop there. The green will start about where the orange line is on the tender too. It's so difficult to kind of get things right, but then again, you're never going to really get anything right first time. If you do, you're lucky. Going to this side, I think this was one of the easier details to capture, because when you look at it sideways, there is that floor on the tender, but then there's another kind of floor piece with the... let me start that again. I don't know what I'm saying. So there's a floor piece with the tender, but because it's kind of its own design, in comparison to the floor of the cab, there is this little section that stands out, so you can kind of get that far back and still have the cab crew reach the coal in the tender. Because it's so different in height, in fact this should be much lower, it would be a bit stupid when you've got the two connected up and all of a sudden you've got this massive drop you have to get to just to get some coal. So yeah, there is that, and thankfully it does go around corners and points just fine. However, I have to show off this massive connection point, so that would be about, I'll squeeze that in to be about there. So this is the conundrum I came across. Either I have it so it sticks out by that much, but with this wheel configuration, I have a flange at the front and a flange wheel there. The reason why I have a flange at the front is because the pilot wheel previously would derail on points where there would be a blind at the front. So it's either build it this way and stop derailing altogether, but have a massive gap between the cab and the tender, or close that gap because there would be a flange here, but that would mean I'll have a blind wheel at the front, and this would derail pretty much every time it goes over points. The joys of building a stupid long engine. It's 10 drive wheels, it's not supposed to be this long as well, which is the most difficult thing. But all in all, I have been able to kind of figure things out. I'm not too happy with how massive that gap is, but it's not too much of a problem either. I don't really see myself kind of using it that much, so to say. But it's still a beautiful locomotive all the same. Just to take it off because I can't be asked to lean over the engine anymore. Coal bed, of course, naturally we have these 1x1 round pieces. Some simple design details going on at the back. These long kind of staff pieces are going to be used, or we're going to be replaced with levers. Because of how the design looks, I was going to have a few levers but have them kind of pushed downwards to be on top of each other. I thought that would have looked really cool, but with positioning it didn't really work. It would be about 5 studs long where I need the design to be 6 wide. So I resulted to this. And at the back we have the ladder. A bit of a chunky ladder, but looking at how this has been put together, it's a nice use of spare pieces. So this bit of tubing is actually this long. This wasn't cut. Obviously it was cut previously from something else, but I didn't need to cut it any further. All of these handle pieces I think look really good. And it's a good way of just using them up for the handle as well. In the future, if I ever need these, I could probably replace them with minifigure hand pieces. But for now, I don't really want to kind of dig into minifigures. So yeah, there we go. That is the 9F. It is a fantastic model. One I still think I might potentially scrap in the future. But, you know, hopefully it will stay because now that I've added trimline tape, that sense of permanence has been added. And it's also nice to work on the freight side of the railway. So yeah, time to get on with freight rolling stock, I suppose. Thank you all ever so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.